We have a 7-year-old unit here with a burnt out R410a compressor. You don't see that too much on R410a refrigerant, and the system is burnt, and the cause was leaking evaporator, low on refrigerant. So I'm going to show how to change the compressor, and also how to do an acid cleanup using suction filter, and also an acid liquid filter. You always want to have the HH at the end on both, and that has activated carbon inside. Let's take a look in the evaporator here. You can see it sets off the leak detector, and it's copper coil. So evaporator's under warranty, so I'm going to swap that out. Leak detector is SRL8. This is the best leak detector for R410a. And an easy way to remove these coils is cut them before the solder joint on the coil side with the snips, and then you can unsolder the piece real easily. Now we can pull this coil out. Let's see where it was leaking. Here's the bottom side of the coil. You get the light on it right. The streaks, not all the time, but I fixed enough of these coils to realize those are probably very small leaks that are adding up. 2 of them right there. That's the oil residue, just sits on the coil. Another one right there. But usually there's multiple leaks, or you can't really chase them down and fix them. You'd be chasing your tail. Didn't really see anything here. I don't really care where it's leaking. It's warranty. Just swap it out. If it wasn't warranty, I'd probably break out the soap bubbles and just check some of my joints. And sometimes you get lucky, you get a leak on the header. I've seen them on the end of the header. Just hit them with silver solder and they're fine. But this one, being a copper coil, I'm sure it had its leaks. So a new coil, I'm glad to see it's all aluminum. You have to put an expansion valve kit because this is 15 SEER. And then I always remove the horizontal pan. You can get a little bit of better airflow, and then I think it just looks neater. You don't need the pan up there. And then it'll slide right in, solder right up. Some things that are important is blow out your lines. I use CO2. Make sure you get all your sand grit out of the lines. Do back pressure and it'll blow right out like that. Also your solder joints. This is Trane, and you gotta make a funky connector to get the pipe outside. You purge out all your lines, get all your sandpaper. Clean, clean, clean. You don't want to have any stuff going to the compressor or clogging up a reversing valve in a heat pump. And another thing that's really important is these are brass to brass connectors for the expansion valve. There's no Teflon ring, so you'd want to definitely use a thread sealant. And nylon is the best stuff for refrigeration. It's a grease that, I never have any leaks using this stuff. And it definitely grease up all your metal to metal fittings. And then they do a mechanical lock, and the grease never hardens. Now here I put the nylon. You can see it's a big grease all around your seal, on the threads. This is great stuff. And it doesn't matter if you get it inside the pipe. because it's HFC anyway. So it's basically already got the polyester oil that it's made from with spider web style polymers. And then I'll use it here and also on the flare nut for the equalizer line. Here's a little catch here. There's no core depressor there. So you got to make sure you take out the core. Otherwise, you won't get any gas flow to the expansion valve for equalization. You only keep the core if there was a core depressor. Now for the compressor outside here, they do one thing I like Trane, they put these roto-lock fittings on there. Sometimes those get corroded though, you got to clean them up, and you always want to use a new Teflon ring, and which comes with the new compressor, or you can order the rings. Sometimes these things will be rusted. Compressor tote is the key. Pulling this thing out, gotta have that handle. Now on the suction filter, you can see it fits nicely right there. That's a hard solder joint to do upside down. And so rather than hard soldering it, I'm soft soldering it with Stay Bright. This is 6%. And it melts at 450 rather than 1200. So I don't have to worry about melting all the insulation, burning up the filter dryer. You can see I already did the top joint outside the unit. That way I don't have to worry about dripping solder inside the joint. And I'll just hit the bottom there. Now the only way to tell for sure how bad your burnout is look at your oil. This one system certainly stinks. But let's pour some oil and see what we got. And that's what a burnout looks like. Nice black oil with a very strong odor. So now I got to swap the liquid line filter, and I'm going with the HH acid reduction. Notice it's a little longer, so I'll unsolder the top and then I'll just cut the bottom, solder that in. Alright, first evacuation on about 500 microns. I got my oversized 3/8 hoses. I'm actually going to do 3 evacuations. Here, I'll start the second one now. I'll basically close off the pump. Just do a sweep. Just take it up to 0. That sweeps out contaminants. Vacuum again. I'll do that 3 times. We got our compressor shroud back on. Actually got to put on the discharge sensor. I'll do that now. And then put this unit back together. Here's the second evacuation. And I was actually hearing it hissing through the reversing valve. So I moved from the liquid line to the discharge line. And hissing went away because the reversing valve looks like it's partially closed. And so I'm on my second evacuation. So here I want to show I mounted the expansion valve bulb, insulated it, but we're going to have some rubbing pipes, like particularly copper, you know, wanting to rub on aluminum, which is bad. And all I do there is I lock it down with silicone. So any place where you're going to have a pipe rubbing on another, just put some silicone in it. And it makes a nice little grommet. Prevent that from happening. So I got to do this with one hand for the camera. But basically, anywhere you're going to have rubbing pipes, you know, silicone it. Here's inside the pipe. You can see the liquid line has the burnt stuff. That's normal. And the suction line, not too bad, but the suction line has the odor because it has the oil. Alright, finished evacuation. Ready for startup. And I'm going to weigh in 7 pounds 5 ounces, like the nameplate. I already manually put in 2.6 pounds just to get it enough to start up by bumping the compressor in. Suction pressure is a little bit low, 90, and my superheat is 25 minus 33, it's about 8 degrees. I'm gonna bump the fan speed up. Let's see if we can raise that up. I mean, it is cold out here, but it's a little bit low. Now the static pressure, it's a little bit low on the low side. A little bit of restriction on the ductwork. High side's not bad. So we got about a 0.4 drop across the unit. Bumping up the fan speed should take care of that. This unit can go to 3 tons, and it was running on 2 tons. I bumped the fan to 2.5 tons, and it gives adequate airflow. But we'll check the heat now too. Now on heating mode, we'll check our subcooling. So we're at 325. Look at the conversion. That's about 102. And then we look at our temperature. 82. So we got about 20 degrees subcooling. So charge looks good. Okay, so now we're going to initiate a manual defrost, and we're going to make sure the reversing valve doesn't hang. It needs to flip over quickly. Do our jumper. That was fast. Less than a second. Okay, so now we're going to wait for the defrost to finish and go back to heating. And we want to listen how long that valve takes to flip over. There's a piston that's moving from one side to the other, and it needs to move in less than 1 second. If it doesn't, that means there's either clogs here or the piston is starting to hang, and that can take out a compressor. And it was fast, less than a second, like click. Whoosh. So reversing valve looks good. So that's it for changing out a burnt up R410a compressor. Thanks for watching.